security alerts and some exciting news for most. Some not so for a few, but we really don't care about those few. Okay. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening from wherever you're watching. The update that people have been asking me about the most is an update about Museveni and his wife Janet Museveni, who are absent from Uganda. At this point, right now, as I speak, Janet is no longer with us. Janet Museveni passed. She passed away a few days ago, but they will not disclose that she's no longer with us. Of course, understandably, because of how they want to continue looking powerful or in control of Uganda. But deep security alerts within them states that Janet Museveni is no longer with us. She's deceased. As for Museveni himself, as you know, he's absent. He has not been around during Easter. He usually made a live broadcast or a message to Ugandans about Easter and all that. But what we saw was a document that says he said this or that about Easter. We usually saw Janet Museveni and Museveni himself come out on Easter, like every nation. In the United States, we had President Trump give us an Easter message, as expected of every nation. But they're both not well. Well, one of them is not well, and the other one is not with us. It is very, very difficult to say rest in peace when we have a person or people who have lived a life dependent on others losing their lives based on their orders and their existence. I couldn't remember a time when Museveni was good news for Uganda. For a short period of time, he convinced, especially the people who ushered him in, that he was a good person. He was coming to fight for Ugandans, fight for their lives, change of government, change of leadership, everything that we wanted to hear, because desperate times were the times. But we can't say the same now, because the characteristic of Museveni's government since his existence, since his coming to Uganda in the 1980s, has been embellished with people losing their lives. The Luero, millions of people were killed in Luero. During his time, 1986, Acholi started suffering from the LRA war, which lasted 20 years. There came other massacres. Kasese recently, a few years ago, that existed. Museveni is still in power. Besides that, come down to our people in the community, people who we know very well, people in the opposition just disappearing, leaders who obviously are, powerful, who we think are good successes, people who are performing and leading the communities or taking up positions in the government. Anybody who is a threat to Museveni and his family, they have done away with. Susan Magala, for example, who Janet Museveni actually ordered her murder. She was existing as a Ugandan of her own will. But because she did something that they didn't like, they wanted to take over her father's farm. They wanted to do this and that. People have died. So many people have lost their lives. They've lost their livelihood. They've lost, dignity. You can't point to a wealthy person who has remained wealthy for many years. Non-government organizations, their livelihood is through the funding to serve Ugandans. But even then, they're stifled. People like Susan Birete, a very, very important person in the non-governmental organizations that give services to Ugandans, arrested, put in prison, really for no crime that she's committed, but just because she's doing what she is supposed to do. And because what she does is something that they don't agree with or don't believe, they ended up arresting her and accusing her of crimes that are, trumped up. They don't make any sense at all. Things like that. Talk about an opposition leader that, like His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, going through an election. Museveni announces an election, but of course, not satisfactory to his taste, because there's truly an opposition that he has no control over. That person then has to be on the run. That person then has to, good evening, Agnes. That person then has to be prosecuted. His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu's wife has to be mishandled. His children, they don't have a continuum. Nobody's promised tomorrow in Uganda as long as these people are here. For a time period that we've reached, being right is wrong. If you are on the side of the people, if you are concerned about well-being of Ugandans, you are a criminal to Museveni and his family. If you are doing things that they don't support, they make laws against you. Right now, every law that has been created in Uganda has been against opposition, especially against His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, the new people, and anybody who does not agree with Museveni's heinous way of ruling Uganda. Anybody on that side is a criminal. People like Waiso Mufumbido, people like Eddie Mutwe. Eddie Mutwe has never run for office. He's not even interested. But because he has a good friend called His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, that's enough crime to get Eddie Mutwe away from arrested, beaten to death, near death, and, put away without any treatment or anything like that. People survive in Uganda by the grace of God, not because they are getting or living the life that they should be living. Talk about wealthy people. Today they're alive, tomorrow they're gone. And when they're gone, their businesses are gone. All of a sudden, all real estate is gone. Everything that they own, talk about anybody who leaves office, members of parliament. When they leave office, I can speak because I come from a family of that sort. They leave parliament, few years down the road, they have nothing. Nothing. If you have anything, you are tied up into loans that are given to you by the Museveni people. So it's hard to say that Ugandans will not celebrate the passing of both these people, okay? And hope for more. Unfortunately, that is where life has gotten us. It is sad, but what can you do? As a human being, we feel hurt, we feel pleasure, we feel all these things. But most Ugandans, 80% of Ugandans, feel sadness. They're broken. They have nothing, a lot of lack everywhere. And I can tell you that, knowing both sides of the aisle, I have very good friends who are well-to-do. And I have several friends who don't have much, okay? And I can tell you that I get a lot of messages in my inboxes. The people who want me to stop speaking are the people who are well-to-do, people whose children's future are planned for, people who are the people in parliament, the people in power, the people in businesses, and all these types of things. And then there comes the people who say, thank you so much for speaking. Here's my experience. Here's my experience. And most of what they've gone through or know somebody going through are really, really, really painful, sad, despicable circumstances. And people like those, as much as they feel like the status quo should continue because they're fine, okay, I despise very much, because even if you have what you have today, you built a huge fence around your home to protect yourselves from the people who you feel that do not deserve life, or do not deserve people like me to speak with or speak about. The difference here is in them being in line, which they don't see at the moment, but they're in line to lose everything they have, including their life. I'm here today, and the security alerts and things that I bring up, these are things that are, some of these people who want me to get off, not speak or stop speaking, are in target by this same government. And sometimes we have to rescue them by what we have to tell them to keep them at bay or safe. So I'm requesting officially here that if you feel that what I say or how I speak is not worth it, is not great, I'm asking you to please just, let me be. Don't follow my page. Just don't disregard, okay? Because what I do here is for the real Ugandan there who is waking up uncertain about tomorrow, wondering if tomorrow will be another day, whether they will live or not. The people in prisons, the supporters, the political prisoners in prison, the lady who passed away, who was in a video yesterday, unfortunately, she tells a story about the time after the election, around the election time, when she was abducted, taken away, injected with a lot of chemicals or whatever, and she ended up dying. under the circumstances of what the people like the Musevenis feel like it should be, how other Ugandans live. So it is unfortunate that we have to celebrate death because these people do not deserve to live. So in any case, Janet Museveni, the wife of the dictator Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, is gone. She passed away when she was taken out from her home after the fall. She went on life support for a few days, but it is 100% confirmed that she's gone. Museveni himself is critical because when he was taken for treatment or surgery, a procedure that happened a few days ago, he has suffered a stroke. The problem with the Museveni people is that he has lied about his age for so many years. Anybody who knows the medical field you know that truth is power to you. If you lie, only you suffer. So he's lied about his age. He says he's about 80 something, but he's well over 100 years old. So a surgery must have been performed on an 80-year-old body, or suspiciously an 80-year-old body, as he says. However, because of the nature of the procedure and what was done, it is said that he suffered a stroke during the procedure that has caused him to be unable to speak. If he had said his age, it wouldn't have been recommended that he gets the surgery. But like I said, the way they think, the way they feel like they can control everything, he lied about his age, ended up getting the surgery, and now he won't wake up or be normal. So essentially, Uganda has no president or first lady. The country at this moment is being run by Salim Saleh, who is his brother, his son, Kainerugaba Muhozi, KK, who is the attorney general, and his son-in-law, the husband of one of the daughters, the ones who own the legal office together. You know who it is. Kaihura is one of them. Mwesigwa is one of them. The other Muhozi is one of them. So with that set of people, Damulira is one of them, the mafias who are running Uganda at the moment. We don't have a president. We don't have a first lady. First lady is gone. The plans about the first lady is that they fear to disclose the fact that she's gone because they are afraid of Uganda celebrating. They are afraid about the circumstances surrounding the swearing in ceremony because they expect Museveni to swear in. However, he has to look right and feel right. And so with the desperation of him possibly not making it from this stroke, they think that they may not have a president to actually swear in at that moment. So with Janet passing, according to her will or her last testimony of life, she did not want to be buried in Uganda because she knows that they have left a horrible taste in Ugandans, that they feel like if she's buried in Uganda, these are her thoughts when she was still alive, that when they no longer have power in Uganda, that she'll be exhumed and burned or killed, or burned or destroyed for animals to eat or whatever, because they know what they've done to the people of Uganda. So she has requested that she either be buried in Tanzania, where Museveni has built a whole city of his own in that country, because he also runs Tanzania through the President Suluhu. Okay, so with that said, other suggestions are that they bury her or bury something in Uganda and call that Janet's grave, so that if things go well, she will still be recognized as the former first lady and a place of burial, so it's respected and honored. Most of what they seek is recognition, legitimacy, honor, but they don't give it back, which means that with all of that and the way they treat people, it is likely that Janet will be buried in Tanzania. However, the plans are to keep her in Rwanda under refrigeration for a period of time until they are able to bring her around June after supposed swearing in, which is not going to happen because now Museveni is also under the weather. The doctors have advised that Museveni not be informed about Janet's passing, neither be informed about the conditions of the country. So with that, they're illegally running operations, Salim Saleh and Muhoozi illegally running operations as unofficial president and son, or whatever the case might be. I told you guys last week that possibly Salim Saleh will write, or they will somehow make Muhoozi Kainerugaba, the CDF, the son of Museveni, the vice president. Because naturally, when a president is absent, the vice president is designated or is in the works to be president or acting in the meantime until the actual president is back to office. Same thing in where Paul Biya comes from, the president who has been on for over 40, maybe 50 years, Paul Biya. I don't know if he has seen what's happening to Uganda or other places, but apparently there was talk about his life or his end life and things. And they decided that they should choose a vice president so that if something happens to him, that person takes over. So strategically, he has chosen his son. The same script is what they're trying to bring to Uganda, to have documentation that indeed Muhoozi Kainerugaba will become the vice president, such that if his father does not come out of coma or whatever he's having right now, that the current vice president, Alupo, is shoved off to the side, which they will do without any concern, because they really don't care how anybody fares. Shove her to the side and instill Muhoozi somewhat by force, despite still being CDF, instill Muhoozi so that when May comes along, they will just, Museveni will not even be mentioned, okay? And somehow, whether the coup d'etat happens or not, they will slip in Muhoozi Kainerugaba as the official president of Uganda. Remember, the steps that should be taken according to the Constitution have not been in place, because naturally, Alupo, who is the current vice president of Uganda, should be in line. In fact, as we speak right now, she should be acting president of Uganda. But because Alupo is not an official Rwandese of the quality that they like, because they know now that they're hanging on by a hair, okay? They know they've lost Uganda. In fact, many NRM leaders like the Amama Mbabazis, the Ndugus, all of those guys know for a fact, and have confirmed to Museveni, that they have lost control of the country. So what they want to do is forcefully instill Muhoozi Kainerugaba. Museveni will not make it out of this. If anybody knows a stroke patient, coupled with dementia, coupled with old age and a failing system, because Museveni suffers from several conditions. He suffers from HIV. He suffers from diabetes. He suffers from low blood pressure. Now, coupled with a stroke at this age, it is going to be extremely, extremely difficult for him to pull through just to be alive as a human being, let alone exist as a functional president. And now that they know that, they're attempting every effort to try and make sure to put Muhoozi in that place before it's too late. Okay? So Janet Museveni is not here anymore. The next thing I want to talk about is the Pastor Kasirivu, who owns Gaba, the school where the children were murdered. Yes, Chilia, you're right about that. Museveni has to go. The owner of that school is a pastor. And for a long time, they've wanted the land where that school stands. Now, the other reason why they attacked that school, Maranatha High School, is because there is a relationship between one of the bloggers or the YouTubers called Asimwe Wile, okay, of Bible and politics. We're on the same wavelength. We're very close, and we share a lot of our communications. So anyways, because of the association with Asimwe Wile, they are going to ask or meet with Pastor Kasirivu to try and see if they can gather information about how come he's doing really, really well, including the school. What are his resources? Because the suspicion is that anybody who is doing well is getting funded from abroad. Or how come it's him and not a Rwandese person? So they want to understand his funding sources. They want to hear from his alternatives. How come he's doing what he does and has all these investments? Okay. Eventually tie him into some sort of crime, likely money laundering. I did share a video of a Sudanese man who claims and says for sure that he has been a money laundering partner of Museveni. And he swears and he says if anybody lacks that information or needs it, they should try to get to him because he has all of that itineraries and everything to share. So they will likely, because money laundering is an easy crime that they can tie onto anyone. Remember the father from Masaka who was a Deodat, who was arrested and tortured by Muhoozi. Even he was forcefully charged with a crime of money laundering, even though eventually he was released. But he went through severe torture, and Muhoozi bragged about what he did to him. So they want to lie and tie him into with his connection with Asimwe Wile to try to have him convince Asimwe or give him a condition of that if you get this man to stop speaking online about this family, about politics, then we will set you free or set your school or give it back to you. But they wanted to lure him by killing those children to bring him closer, bring him to a negotiating table so that they can try to arm twist him to accept certain conditions that they want. So it is not about a crime that was committed by a criminal, wanting, I don't know what benefit is there to kill children. But this crime was tied and absolutely orchestrated by Muhoozi, Salim Saleh, and the criminal gang to try to bring this man to his knees. And also quiet the population, depopulate, and bring upon fear amongst Ugandans. As I wrote in my post a few days ago, the real reason for killing those children was not because the killer wanted anything. No. Not at all. It does not make any sense that this Okello came from wherever he came from. They're saying he's from Nuoya or whatever, Northern Uganda district. That he did come all the way to Gaba, to Maranatha High School, of all schools, to come and perform something like this. He must have been promised heaven on earth to perform an atrocity like this. Now, I also want to mention that being that this man, apparently, they found out that he's from the United States or has a history of the U.S., in fact, lived in Virginia. I can see the rope long enough being tied to His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. It is likely that they're going to string it along all the way to there. But let's wait and see. Okay? So Pastor Kasidivu has convened a meeting with all of his members or his workers to try to let them know, to inform them about a possibility of closing his activities or his works. And unfortunately, he had also engaged other Rwandese people already who were very close in his business activities. In fact, I understand he has a church in Rwanda, which, I don't know how come that is. But these people have a way of hooking you up and stringing you along to wherever they want you to be. The other also thing that I wanted to discuss is, we see a lot of these Christian interreligious council leaders, this, that, and that. Now, because they also know a lot of secrets. For example, when they went to see Mrs. Barbara Kyagulanyi at her home, prior to the assault by Muhoozi and the SFC who was sent to the home, the interreligious council was sent to His Excellency's home to go and meet with her and try to strike a deal where Mrs. Barbara could speak about where her husband is or try to get him to call her, and also bug the home, obviously. Now, because the Interreligious Council knows a lot of information, when they call them to missions like these, they spill a few beans for them, just for their knowledge and operation, and then they let them go and do what they're sent to do. Because remember, 8 billion of Uganda's budget goes to the Interreligious Council, unquestioned. That is besides what is collected from the church every day here and there. 8 billion is designated in the budget to go to the Interreligious Council of Uganda. That means they will never be on the side of the people. Now, it has come a time where the boat that the government is in on the ocean or lake or whatever water body it is, whoever is on that boat, okay, and it's on life support, and there's water coming into the boat, and they must empty some people. They must lighten the weight of the boat. They're beginning to throw people under the boat, into the water. For example, Interreligious Council has become a thorn in the foot of the Kainerugabas, of the Muhozis, of the Salim Salehs, of the regime. Much as it's going through a cleansing or a change, now it's time for the Interreligious Council people or members to be removed by the Muhozis. Who knew that time would come? It is their time. They are figuring out how to do it to eliminate those older religious people in the council who have been there for so many years, okay? So many years. They have a lot of secrets. They know what the government has done. They know what they've done. And this time it doesn't matter if you're Rwandese or not, okay? This is to the extent that if you are a friend of Muhozi and you know something, this is the time for him to choose himself and not you. However close you are to these people, when the time comes, you will be the first to go. So Interreligious Council, your packages are coming. It is time for you to get eliminated, and this is how they're going to do it. Apparently, most churches are located on wetlands because you were favorites for a long time. When a church was built on a wetland, as long as they performed for Museveni, they went ahead. They got all the permits. In fact, no one checked on them. So because all your churches are on wetlands, that is going to be the first line of attack. Eventually, you will also take the poison. Eventually, you will also land into some accidents. Eventually, you will lose your lives because you know so much. This would be a good time for some of you to leave the country. But again, you pray to your gods, hopefully, and your prayers are heard. This is the time to test that. How faithful you've been and how much of the righteous activities you've been performing. So Interreligious Council, it is time for you also to be thrown off that boat. In fact, in that meeting where Salim Saleh, Muhozi, Kaihura were, they also said that they have tried to burn a church called Victory Church. They've tried to light it up on fire, but it didn't burn. The whole thing didn't burn. And so they're now going to look into other means. They said that the wood that the church is built by, I don't know where that church is. I've never been to Victory Church. Any of you who knows where Victory Church, maybe you can help me understand. So they're saying that they've tried to burn the churches while people are there. But the wood that they've used did not catch fire enough to burn down. Look at that. Okay? So it's time for the rest of you who think you are still in good books with these people. Because when they decide, it doesn't matter what you do or who you are. If you are not Janet Museveni, Salim Saleh, Muhozi, their children, anybody else who works for them, it doesn't matter. Your time is upon them. When you have to go is upon them. It's not about what you live for or what God decides for you. They decide when it's time for you to go. So Interreligious Council, it is time to reap what you have sowed. So they're worried about the swearing in ceremony, obviously, because they know that Museveni is in the worst shape possible. Now they're discussing the coup d'etat is still well in the works. They still plan on having it. They are still working toward it. In fact, the reason why they've stopped certain vehicles like KCC vehicles, the ones that are cleaning the streets recently, they are going to ban them from doing that because they want to make sure that there is no opportunity for Ugandans to cause a genuine coup d'etat, or try to, that incident where if they can cause jam throughout the Kampala city, they will have changed the government, literally. If all Ugandans with big trucks or vehicles just come and park, take the key and leave, there is no way the Museveni's government will last another few hours. It'll be the end. And because that has been communicated a lot and talked about a lot, and people think about it, the people who have had vehicles have said, hey, I work for this company. I ferry oil, or I ferry cement. I have this big sumo truck. If you guys need an operation like this, just let me know. So there is offers like that on the table. Okay. My colleagues have discussed this. So because of that being out there, they're worried about the fact that this could actually take place. They have ordered all the media to stop debating on the swearing in ceremonies that should be coming up in May. Okay. Parliament has been requested not to discuss any of that either, about anything concerning the leader of opposition or leadership or change of leadership or anything like that, because they don't know if the swearing in will happen. They are not sure Museveni will live to actually swear in. The other point I have is, last week, senior prisons officers had a decorating function. I think they do that every so often, where people are honored for their service, for, certain work they've done, and this, that, and the other. Apparently that happened, and many of the attendees of this event actually were poisoned. The reason why they do things, I'm sorry, the sun is in my face. I don't know what to do with it. Anyway, we'll just continue. So the reason why they did that, last week at Luzira, there was a party. They did that because, as I said, the boat is sinking. They're eliminating people who they think or feel that know too much about what the government has done. All of the atrocious activities that were performed at the prisons, the arrests, the torture, people being taken back and forth, the Eddie Mutwes who were, first of all, after abduction, taken into Muhoozi Kainerugaba's dungeon in his basement, tortured severely, and then brought to the prisons to formally be imprisoned. So those types of events have caused them to also try to eliminate, which officially those people who are senior police officers who work for the prisons in Luzira, who attended that function, should go and check themselves, because they were severely poisoned and they will have their internal organs failing in a few days or so. Okay, that boat will not take you people working for the Musevenis. It's not for you. So the sooner you realize it, the better it is for you. Okay, they're still coordinating fire outbreaks in garages. For example, in Chibanda, Kumbao, I don't know where that is. They're also still debating one prominent, killing a prominent official. I couldn't tell you who it is because we don't have the name of that person, but that is something that they're planning to do as well. So like I said, the boat is full and it's sinking. And anyone and anybody that they feel a sentiment to do that to will eventually suffer that. I don't know this person. I think there's a lady called Spice Diana. She's an artist. I believe she used to be a friend of Mrs. Barbara Chagulanyi. Salim Saleh and another gentleman swear that they have poisoned her. And in the next few days, she's going to start failing in her organs. So anybody who knows Spice Diana, there was another person who was discussed whose initial is K or something like that. We're not certain about who exactly that is yet, but when we do, I'll let you know. So Spice Diana, if anybody who knows her, have her get checked. Okay. They have adopted a new app that is used in the Arab world, where they can call people directly, no matter where you are, and try to map out or try to bug your phone so that they can get to you. So especially those in Uganda, be careful if you have friends who you're not really trusting of where they lean, whether on your side or opposition or not. Try to avoid communications. Basically, be careful. They use a lot of women, so be careful, especially men and women in the opposition. Try to stay true to yourself and your partner. Trust your partners, find the right partners. This is not the time to mess around or play around. I don't know if you have seen the video of the lady, I didn't get her name, the one who, before I get to that, this was also posted by Spire Sentongo, the one who does the cartoons about the, things, current affairs and things. Anything that happens to Spire Sentongo, it is Chiriowa Chiwanuka, the Attorney General, and what is Katz? Could you help me? What is the name of Museveni's attorney? The husband of one of the daughters. I forget his name. Anybody who remembers that name? The one who is a partner of Attorney General Chiriowa Chiwanuka. So anyways, they've discussed taking Spire Sentongo, either taking him like they did Waiswa Mufumbiro and imprisoning him. And then they also would like, when they take him, Karujire. Yes. Thank you, Maureen. So anything that happens to Spire Sentongo, the cartoon artist, it will be Karujire and Chiriowa Chiwanuka. Karujire is the son-in-law of Museveni. He's also Museveni's attorney. He's also in charge of the whole legal fraternity in Uganda. Any rulings that happen in Uganda, especially that have to do with the opposition or politics or the wealthy in Uganda, are drafted by Rwabogo. Yes, are drafted by Rwabogo. Rwabogo is the attorney of Museveni and is the one in charge of the government. Sorry. He's the one in charge of the legal fraternity. In fact, anything that passes in, for example, when the last time the political prisoners were brought to court, you saw that the judge was reading instead of, adjudicating from her knowledge. I'm sure she's experienced with a bail application, with, hearing both sides of the legal aisle, defendant and accused or accuser. She could not perform on her own. She had to read from somewhere, and she was reading about the fact that they're no longer going to have the media in-house while they rule on opposition cases. Meanwhile, many of the opposition political prisoners are in jail because they're accused of failing or of breaking the Public Communications Act, the Computer Misuse Act, which was apparently designed by the gentleman who's wasting away. You know who it is. Anyways, the other issue I have is that George Musisi, the Member of Parliament, is going to be nullified. Muhozi and Salim Saleh have decided that they cannot have Joel Senyonyi and George Musisi both in Parliament, because what they believe that they are really strong and powerful and great attorneys and also great members of Parliament. So, as you know, that the family of His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu is compromised. In fact, his brother, Chairman Nyanzi, apparently will be the one who will be brought to occupy the seat once they throw out George Musisi. They don't want to have both George Musisi and Senyonyi in Parliament. So in the next few days, you're going to see that. So Museveni has a stroke, like I mentioned earlier as I opened. And I think that those are all the updates I have as per the new updates I could gather for today. So just a reminder for those who are working for this regime is that they're now offloading. Imagine Interreligious Council is being offloaded. There are plans to make sure to eliminate all of the older Interreligious Council members because they know too much. The police, prisons, they were poisoned just recently because they know too much. Imagine people like the Anita Mongs and the people, people higher ups in the military and on and on and on. Imagine what will be happening. I actually saw a video where there was a funeral service for one of the military members, and nobody knows who it was or what happened to him. If we can take a lesson, it would be that, we want to be on the right side of history now more than ever, because it is imminent that Uganda, the politics and the leadership of Uganda is going to change. We don't have a president. He is on life support, has had a stroke, cannot speak. Okay? Why do we still rely on such a person? His wife is gone. If we have a president of any sorts, we will likely, what they're planning to do is have Muhoozi instead become the president of Uganda. So I don't believe that will happen, because if anything's pointing to the right direction is the fact that these guys are going down. That government is wasting away, and they know it. Once Museveni is gone, even if he's not, which is not going to be able to perform even if he's here, Uganda is going through a change, and Uganda is in the right place at the right time. At the right time. Even if we're seeing the most painful things going on, it's darkness before dawn. I strongly believe it. We have never seen a Uganda this close to change before. Never. Often we suffered quietly. We did not act against what we were facing. But now with a person like His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, we have everything we need to see and foresee a change in this country. So my advice to us is, anybody who's doing anything, whatever you are doing, please keep it there. Keep your foot on the gas, because it is time, and we're getting there. We're in the right place. We're going through what we're going through, just like a mother about to deliver their baby. There's a lot of pain that goes on when that time comes. But after that, you have a new world. You have a new person. You have a whole human being, somebody you celebrate and forget about the pains. It's been 40 long years. 40 long years. It is time. It is time. I am more positive than ever that this time we're going to achieve change. Thank you, Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. Thank you, all the bloggers, everybody who's speaking. Do not stop speaking. I know many people. In fact, last week I got a text message from somebody that I highly respect that came into my inbox and said, stop doing what you're doing. And knowing where the stakes are for him and his children, and thinking about the 4 children who are gone, who were just slaughtered. And today Balaam came up with 10 million shillings as if to compensate for the death of those children. No amount of money should be enough to pay those people for the loss of their children. None. But I can tell that the people who are comfortable, who want the status quo to continue, do not want change. If you run across people like that, just ignore them and move on, but continue doing what you're doing. We have the Museveni family right in the right place. Janet, before she died, she made many comments about them leaving the government and just going in peace. But Museveni is a hardhead who will not listen to that. Well, she's gone, and wherever she's gone, good riddance. But we must continue and keep on and keep the fire burning. Let's continue, because it's the only way to get rid of these people. There's no other way. Being a generation of our own, with different gifts, with technology, with all these things that they didn't have when they were coming, we are better positioned now to do what we must and achieve success in a new Uganda. I believe that more than ever. We're in the right place at the right time. Yes, Sebagala, we are in labor, and that baby must be born. I love you all so much. I beg to love and leave you. I will see you again tomorrow. Thank you very much. We'll stay in touch. Bye-bye.